Right now, there's a lake in Vilas County that has no snow on it. Researchers at UW Trout Lake Station in Boulder Junction use shovels, snowblowers, and plows to keep it clear all winter long, leaving the thick ice exposed. It's the second year of field work for the study that is looking at the impact of what no snow or ice cover could mean for the health of lakes in the Northwoods.
This year we actually had better freeze up, so you might recall that the lakes this year froze really nicely before it started snowing. We got this really nice black ice, so that the conditions this year are even better for our experiment than the conditions last year.
That's Hillary Dugan. She's an assistant professor at UW-Madison's Center for Limnology. On a gray winter day, I met with Dugan, 3 research assistants, and her dog Gale, as in gale force wind.
She loves being out here.
We're at a snow-covered lake. It's fairly small, more like the size you think of when someone says a pond. To access it, we park at the end of the road and walk about 800 feet in. There's no homes on the lake, and it's been untouched except for where the researchers are collecting samples in the middle of the lake and the paw prints creating zigzag lines across the snow.
We're out here on Trout Bog taking basically standard lake measurements to understand how lake ecosystems function in the winter.
Dugan and her team will use the measurements as a comparison to the ones they take at the other snow-free lake. The research assistants are each working on a different task to collect different kinds of samples. Ellie Sosha is kneeling next to a hole in the ice she's drilled and then chipped away at. She's holding a large, clear, rectangular box with a gray metal handle at the top and mesh tubing popping out the side near the bottom.
This is a Schindler trap, and I'm sampling for zooplankton, so this tool lets us sample at discrete depths.
When she's ready, she slowly dips it into the hole until the box is completely submerged, then slowly brings it back up, holding it over the hole and letting the water drain out. Then she collects what's caught in the mesh trap into a jar. Sosha repeats this process multiple times using a rope to lower the trap deeper each time.
Ellie's going to go back and count a lot of zooplankton under a microscope.
About 8 feet away, inside a bright red fishing tent, Adriana Gorski and Sydney Wydell are collecting samples of gases in the water. A small machine is drawing up water from the lake through clear tubes. Gorski then uses a large syringe to pull the water from the lake via the tubes. Then she points it up and pulls in a little air.
We're collecting dissolved gas samples from the water column, including methane and carbon dioxide. So in order to do that, we take what we know is the concentration in the air and mix it with the water, and then we're able to extract that new air that's within our vial, I guess, and then we can calculate within the water column.
Researchers take these and other samples multiple times throughout the winter at both Trout Bog and the one clear of snow.
We're trying to see what influence that has on ice conditions and water chemistry and biology, thinking that if there's no snow on a lake, you're going to get a lot of light penetrating through the ice, and that light is going to let algae photosynthesize, and then it's going to have a lot of feedbacks to other parts of the system.
Dugan says after one winter of data, they are already seeing some differences on the snow-free lake.
We saw that there was more algae, so more both phytoplankton biomass and chlorophyll concentrations, and so that supported that if you increase light, you're going to get more algae production. We saw really high concentrations of methane. We're still not sure if that relates to the plowing or not, so more measurements this winter to compare that to.
Dugan noticed some physical changes to the ice as well.
Comparing what we saw yesterday to today, the other lake does have less white ice and more black ice, so far the plowing is doing what we want it to do. I think the ice is actually a little thicker over the other lake too.
A lot of their findings so far support what they expect to happen. Dugan says one surprising thing was the lake temperature. Most people would expect the snow-covered water temperature to be warmer because the snow acts as an insulator.
What we found last year was that the lake that we cleared actually got a little bit warmer, like just a little bit, and so it's hard to know yet if it's just like air temperature related or if clearing the snow actually allowed more sunlight into the lake, so more energy to warm the water.
This research gives some insight to what the future may hold for the Northwoods. The average Northwoods temperature in the winter is 4 degrees warmer than what it was 50 years ago. If warming trends continue as expected, there could be less snow and less ice on lakes, which would have more implications down the line.
And temperature has such a huge influence on all life processes that, as warming a lake would definitely impact things like microbes and other cells that are trying trying to do their thing.
Dugan and other researchers will continue to collect and process the data from this winter.
From there, we look at how the data match up with our hypotheses and what we thought might happen, and kind of compare the 2 years against each other, the 2 lakes against each other, to try and understand, how snow and ice are driving ecosystem processes.
While figuring out the full extent of the impact of warming winters still requires more research, studies like this are key to finding the answers. For WXPR News, I'm Katie Thorensen.